Thank you everyone for joining us this evening. We're super excited to present this webinar on why multivitamins are your best insurance policy. My name is Priscilla, I'm your co-host for the evening. Please note that we'll be answering all your questions at the end of the webinar, so please feel free to type in your questions in the chat box at any time, and we'll do our best to answer all of them. I will now hand you over to your educator for this evening, Dr. Miranda Wiley.
Awesome, and good evening. Yeah, I'm Dr. Miranda Wiley. I am actually on the next slide. Here we go. I am a naturopathic doctor practicing in Vancouver. Graduated from the Boucher Institute in New West, which is local to me. I have been in the health food industry for more than 30 years. I started as a very fresh-faced teenager, and it set me on my path. I had my own health concerns. I was in and out of hospital. I was on medications every 12 hours. And by just this little job at a health food store as a 13-year-old, I started switching myself off and learning the power of natural medicine. So by 14, I knew I was going to do naturopathic medicine for the rest of my life. Just had to graduate high school and jump through a few more hoops. I do believe I am compassionate. I really want to help people. And I think natural medicine has a lot to offer. And I'm very curious. I'm terrible at saying I don't know. I can say I don't know yet, and I will look and I will learn. And teacher, doctor means teacher. It comes from the same root word in Latin, docere. Creative whole food cook. My happy time is in the kitchen with a bunch of vegetables and the family lovingly out of my hair for an hour. Eternal student, always learning. And that is one of the joys of medicine and patients and everyone being unique and having different qualities to explore. I do enjoy yoga as part of my grounding practice. And playful mother. I have two small kids who are why I need a grounding practice. They're a lot of fun, but very, very busy. Our content for today, we're going to discuss why we need a multi. I've been hearing it for more than 30 years of, oh, I don't need to take a multi, I eat really well. And unfortunately, I strongly disagree with that. We are in a world of nutritional poverty. There are big gaps in our diet. We are up against more and more chronic disease than our ancestors were. They dealt with more acute disease. We'll discuss a little bit of nutrient pathways, but not too heavily there. Discuss what some medications can do to our nutrient levels and look at, how many people are on meds. It's rather significant. And then looking at what we can do to offset that and just have our bases covered and ours, as we said, just sort of our good insurance policy in place. So nutritional poverty is when we are looking at limited access to nutrition and limited access to nutritionally dense foods. There have been a lot of great documentaries over the last, sort of 10, 15 years. I think Food Inc. was one of sort of the first that really shone the light on people in poverty looking at a beautiful peach. I don't think it was even organic, but it was like $1.50 versus a 99-cent hamburger. And it was, so much faster to get that rather than something fresh and full of nutritional produce straight from the land. So we've got very low quality, low diversity of food, major sources of malnutrition. The saying is that in the West, we are overfed and undernourished. Calories aplenty, not a problem to fill the belly for most of us, certainly not all of us, but getting that nutritional density where what we eat actually matters and supplies more than just energy, but actually supplies vitamins and minerals and the phenols that we need. That's the challenge. And people might take in enough calories for daily subsistence, but they can still suffer from that hidden hunger. So, the body's lacking in zinc, it puts out a hunger signal and you grab a scone from Starbucks and then it's like, no, I still need that nutrient, put out another hunger signal. And okay, it's past night tonight. And we're still, our body is crying out for nutrients, putting out that hunger signal often. And then we're not able to meet it with the food that is readily available to us or to the bulk of us. And with those low level of micronutrients, we get that low diversification of diets. Any one of us can be nutritionally poor, maybe not all the time, maybe just certain periods of our life, depending on our mood, depending on finances, depending on pandemic status and inflation and holidays and whatever it may be. We can be financially wealthy, but it doesn't mean we are nutritionally wealthy. And certainly I can attest to that from my patient practice as well. Having the means to buy food doesn't necessarily mean that people are spending their money on the quality of food that I think we all need. And nutrient deficiencies are real. So this information is a little bit old. I don't have anything more up to date yet. When we do, we'll obviously update the slide. So back in July 2015, and this is for the US Centers of Disease Control, population at that time was about 330 million people. In the States, 15 million people had low serum vitamin C. So we're looking at maybe about 5%. And again, it's readily available in produce. 18 million deficient in vitamin B12, which is available in animal products, but it does require solid digestion. And so some people are eating animal products, but just not getting that B12 absorbed because they're having digestive issues. Some people are just not consuming enough of it in the first place. So there could be other factors involved there. 30 million people, so just under 10%, but 7-8% were deficient in vitamin B6. And we need this for our neurotransmitter production, to create serotonin and melatonin to help with mood and sleep, to create dopamine to help with focus and concentration. 30 million people deficient in it in a first world country. And 90 million vitamin D insufficiency. So not overt deficiency, but not enough, which is not too surprising if you consider that vitamin D is predominantly found in organ meats, which are not big players on the nutritional stage these days. There was the whole, slip, slap, slop anti-sun campaign. So a lot of people weren't making their own vitamin D through their skin in an effort to avoid skin cancer, which is valid. And so years ago, decades ago, they started fortifying dairy products with vitamin A and vitamin D because they're lacking in most of our baseline diets. And a lot of people are dairy intolerant. And so, they're not consuming it that way as well. Health Canada 2012, so trying to get some Canadian stats out of this, 16 to 19% of women consumed insufficient iron. Iron is the leading micronutrient deficiency in the world and in Canada. So again, we're not talking third world countries with no access to a ready supply of food, and still just under 20% of women weren't getting enough iron in their diet. 10 to 35% of Canadians, so up to a third of Canadian adults, were not consuming enough B12 or vitamin C. And we were also not getting enough vitamin B6, again, that neurotransmitter pathway, folate, which we need for red blood cell production, and then zinc. Zinc is absolutely key for immune function, for sense of smell, to balance out copper in our system. It has more than 300 roles as an enzyme cofactor. And most people who I'm looking at now are deficient in zinc to some degree. And more than 35%, the leading nutrient deficiencies were vitamin A and vitamin D. And again, predominantly organ meats or fortified dairy. So not big surprises, but also not difficult to compensate for if we bring in more orange foods, more beta carotene rich foods, and bring in some vitamin D, like a little bit of pate here and there, and get that in there. Also fairly inexpensive supplements. And then even the healthiest diet, even when, we are doing our best and we are walking the walk and everything is as it should be, when we look at the RDA for B6, 1.5 milligrams, in order to get that, you need to have 2.5 bananas in a day. And that's a fair amount of sugar and starch, 12 tablespoons of roasted sunflower seeds. I don't know why they specified roasted or how raw would factor into that. 5 ounces of beef liver, it's a good serving, nearly 4 cups of lentils, 3.5 cups of avocado, or 20 tablespoons of peanut butter. So just to get that baseline amount, the absolute minimum, not to go above and beyond, not to deal with additional levels of stress or what might be being lost through demands on our body or medications that we might be taking that deplete that. Really, it's tough to get it just even from a nice, well-rounded plant-based diet with some good quality animal products thrown in. And so we'll talk a little bit later about Dr. Tirona Lodog. She's a wonderful person to have on your radar. We'll talk about her later, but her quote, she did all this research to get those numbers in place for us. Personally, I believe that the best way to ensure you're getting all your essential vitamins is to take a basic multivitamin mineral supplement, not 20 pills and in a very elaborate pill popper, just a nice multi, just cover off your bases. And we're talking about how it takes a lot of food to get the micronutrients that we need. So again, this is, whole foods. In one whole food multivitamin tablet, you're getting in a whole lot of produce nutrients. So we could consume all that, or we can pop a multi and sort of have a step up without having all of that caloric intake. Also missing, the fiber and a lot of the other good qualities of fresh food as well. But really just get that nutrient density, take off the edge, and then, enjoy your life with that little bit of peace of mind. We're also looking at chronic disease and nutrition. So this was another report from the American CDC that dietary deficiencies are well documented and they have characteristic signs and symptoms. In addition, recent findings have determined that less than optimal, so not deficient, just like just sliding down the slope a little bit, less than optimal biochemical levels have been associated with risks of adverse effects. So these health effects include cardiovascular disease, so one of the leading cause of mortality in North America, stroke, impaired cognitive function, cancer, eye diseases, poor bone health, and other conditions. And so the analogy to draw is that, most people are going through life and they're seeing this picture on the left. And it's fine. It's not bad. You can tell there's a mountain. You can see the clouds in the sky, and there's trees, and there's a road. It's, you're getting the general gist. You're not blind and completely overtly deficient. You can see what's happening. But if we optimize that, if we get that right up to the top of the bell curve, aim for an A+ rather than a B-, then things start to become a little bit more crisp vision. We have more health available to us. We have just smoother running biochemistry in all of our cells. And we do need them all. We need all of our vitamins, minerals, phytonutrients, and their cofactors for optimal health. Each nutrient plays numerous important roles in cell function throughout the entire body. And one example that we'll look at on the next slide is our serotonin and melatonin pathway. So again, serotonin is the happy hormone. It's the target of a lot of antidepressants. It gives us a lift, it makes us feel good. And then at night, that serotonin is converted into melatonin. So the light stops shining on our pineal gland, which is just sort of in the middle of the third eye. And through B6 and other factors, we start to make melatonin and we sleep well. We need many factors for that enzymatic pathway in order to function optimally. So we start with protein. We've got, a chain of amino acids all strung together, hundreds of them, and they're all attached, hand in hand, like a chain of paper dolls, and we need to digest them. So in order to make enough stomach acid that's going to go through and snip the hand-holding paper dolls and turn them into individual amino acids that we can then absorb through our digestive tract, we need zinc, common nutrient deficiency, B1, B3, B6, another common nutrient deficiency. So already some people are setting ourselves up to fail, and those proteins go in and they don't get digested properly. And then they putrefy, they rot. We end up with more digestive disorders that in turn is going to impair digestion absorption down the road. But ideally, we have these nutrients, we make good, strong levels of stomach acid, we burn that food, combust it, bring in those individual amino acids, one of which is tryptophan. It's one of the essential amino acids. Tryptophan can be used to make B3, so we want to make sure we're getting enough B3 in our diet so we don't have to redirect our tryptophan. Tryptophan is then converted to 5-HTP. And for that, we need folate or B9, iron, calcium, B3, and those help to manufacture that particular enzyme, the tryptophan hydroxylase, which converts the tryptophan into 5-HTP. Now we have 5-HTP. It still isn't active in our system. We need to convert that into serotonin. That's where we need more of that B6 that was deficient in both Americans and Canadians. Vitamin C, insufficient in Americans and Canadians. Zinc and magnesium. And then that's going to help us to make the enzyme dopa decarboxylase. That converts the 5-HTP serotonin. Now we feel good. Now we're happy. The food has satiated us, good social networks, good communication, enjoying life. At night, we go to sleep. Serotonin, the darkness on our pineal gland, we start that conversion into melatonin. And for that, we need vitamin B5 and another compound called SAMe. So the bottom line is we don't necessarily consume enough of the right foods to get all the essential nutrients we need, even if we're trying really hard. We haven't even gotten into agriculture yet. When needs exceed intake. So, baseline, I'm fully grown, but my kids, they need more nutrients. They are, changing, creating new brain cells, creating new skin cells, muscles, bones, all of it. Pregnancy is the other time when we need additional nutrients because again, we're creating new life and helping them to grow. In elderly, the issues become more those of digestion. So they might be consuming nutritional food, but their digestive caliber has lessened. Every decade, our metabolism drops. We produce less stomach acid. Things start to slow down a little bit, and the ability to absorb those nutrients and get them into our bloodstream is that much more difficult. There's also a bit of an issue with the elderly. It's called tea and toast syndrome. And I remember my grandmother having this. She'd just have, a biscuit and a cup of tea for lunch. Not very hungry, didn't want to eat more. It's like there's just no nutrition in that. A restricted diet, of which there are many to choose from. whether you need to because you have a food allergy or sensitivity, whether you're exploring something that's maybe a bit more of a fad and seeing what works best for your physiology, but cutting out foods then limits our access to those nutrients. High stress lifestyles, even if people weren't stressed before 2020, I think everyone's experienced a big uptick during the pandemic. People with chronic disease, pregnancy, we talked about. Athletic training, again, like you're building new tissue, you need more stuff. If someone has a low appetite, and that's an interesting one because low appetite could be a symptom of not having enough B vitamins in your diet. So if you have lab animals and you take B vitamins out of their diet, so you give them all the carbs, the fat, the protein, everything else is the same in their kibble, they won't eat it. Like the appetite just drops off. There's no point in taking in those macronutrients if you don't have the fuel for the machinery that's going to turn them into usable energy for the body. Low appetite might be a symptom as much as anything else. Poor dietary choices, we all make them sometimes. It's whether we're doing it all the time or through that 80-20 rule. Chronic medication use, again, another big factor. Again, in the elderly as well, there's a lot more medications. And then the biggest part of my practice is digestive issues. People coming in with bloating, gas, heartburn, loose stools, constipation, just whatever is it, things are not feeling right. No matter what they eat, they feel immediately full or sick, chronic nausea. So those digestive concerns, they will also affect our ability to absorb nutrients. And then there's genetic variations, which we're learning a whole lot more about in the last sort of 10, 20 years since the Human Genome Project was created. And now there's Ancestry.ca and there's 23andMe, and there's so many pathways for people to just swab their cheek and get their own genetic info and learn about whether they are able to successfully convert beta carotene into vitamin A, or whether they really need to take a little bit of extra straight up vitamin A. Can they process vitamin D? Do they need additional B6? How are they with folate? So we're learning a whole lot more about that and seeing as more and more people get tested. And then agriculture has changed. So we used to, till the land and grow something with a shallow root system. And the next year on that same acreage, a medium root system. That next year on the same acreage, a deep root system. And then the next year, let the land rest. Let the weeds come in, let the animals run all over it and forage and poop and die and contribute back to that soil nutrition. And over the last few decades, the last century, there's really been a push to just like yield, yield, yield. Our population keeps going up. We've got to feed people. No time to let things rest, no time to replenish or regenerate. Let's just get it in there. So when we started looking at nutrients, 1914 is when nutrients were really kind of first discovered. Then we see it sort of post 2 world wars. It's really dropped off. It was not a priority. Let's just, get numbers out and feed people. And it's dropped ever more since. It hasn't gone much lower since sort of the hippie movement, but it was already kind of significantly rock bottom at that point. And this is just looking at 3 minerals, calcium, magnesium, and iron in cabbage, lettuce, tomatoes, and spinach. So we can get a lot more diverse on the nutrients. We can get a lot more diverse on the agriculture. But there are similar studies that came out of the US and the UK, both of whom studied the nutrient levels in their food in about the 1950s, and then for a fun comparison, did it again around Y2K, and saw that nutrient levels have gone down, heavy metals have gone up, and it's just more difficult. So we can eat the same diet our grandparents or great-grandparents ate, but we're not getting the same nutrient levels that they got from having fresh local produce, no pesticides, no herbicides, straight off their farm or traded with local towns. And then medications. So regular medication use, nearly 30% of Canadian adults who are younger than me, 25 to 44 years old, 55% of Canadian adults in my age bracket and up until sort of retirement, and then more than 80% of Canadian adults in their senior years are consuming at least 1 medication. 30% of Canadian adults are using more than 5 prescribed medications at any given time. And I'm not shooting down medications. Where I am, I have a prescriptive license. I prescribe them. They're necessary at times, but they do often come at a cost. And a lot of times that just gets kind of washed aside or ignored. Ones we want to pay attention to, if someone's on something to suppress acid, and we don't want acid just going willy-nilly up the esophagus, that increases the risk of esophageal cancer. So we might need to, keep that down and protect that tissue. Then we're minimizing the ability to absorb B12, beta carotene, iron, calcium, and zinc, all of which are important. Aspirin, people take a baby aspirin every day. We have increased excretion. So even if we've consumed enough vitamin C, we're now peeing out more of it, and increased excretion of zinc. So we need to supplement those in our diet, and it shouldn't be hard. Here's a baby aspirin. Make sure you take enough vitamin C and zinc and maybe some B12 to just offset it up. Birth control pill, widespread throughout women of childbearing age, from teens up to 40s, 50s, and beyond. And just B vitamins across the board. B vitamins are inexpensive. It's not hard. Here's your birth control pill. Stay on it till you're ready, a couple months or a year before you're ready to have a baby, and just take a B complex with it. Easy. If it has additional vitamin C in it, great. Maybe you need some magnesium and zinc. Just balance it out. Blood pressure meds, which increase urinary outflow. So we're increasing the waste of a lot of minerals. And we're also affected by antibiotics, blood sugar medications, thyroid hormone replacement. And again, a lot of these are incredibly necessary for that individual, but we just got to give them what's going to be lost or missed. And then there's the environmental toxins. I realize this is sounding incredibly doom and gloom, but there is hope. Stay with me. Toxins are now becoming, depends which circles you look at. In my world, definitely the primary cause of chronic disease. Huge changes since the Industrial Revolution, Queen Victoria, the smog that layered over London as they just pumped out more and more coal. And, we've got trains and there's big ships crossing the oceans. And, it was exciting and there was so much happening. Then we hadn't even discovered plastics then. Now we've got plastics and microplastics going anywhere. For ADHD patients, more than 50% of cases have been linked to just 3 toxins. So, almost half are broken down to about 3 toxins. Diabetes, about half are broken down to about 3 toxins, and widely spread. And some of us are very good at, breathing these things in, swallowing them down, and excreting them. Our little enzymes break them apart, digest, we get rid of them through our bile, or we exhale them, or we sweat them out, whatever it may be. But some people don't. Their machinery isn't quite as effective, and they start to accumulate and they can cause problems with various organs and tissues and cells in our body. So these toxins are causing damage by increasing free radical production. So we need more antioxidants to offset that. They can poison some of our enzyme systems. They replace structural minerals. Right now that we know that lead is bad, there was still, leaded gasoline when I was growing up. But lead just, bumps calcium out the way. So our bones have some degree of lead. We'll never get rid of all of it, but we certainly don't want too much of it. We don't want it leaching out into the bloodstream. And they can damage our DNA. Then we get epigenetic dysmodulation. That's a fun one. So genetics, that's the DNA we're born with. Epigenetics is the influence of nutrients and toxins turning those genes on and off. So just because someone has the breast cancer gene doesn't guarantee they're going to get breast cancer, and not having the breast cancer gene doesn't guarantee that you will not get it. So there can still be toxins and nutrients at play that turn things on and off. Certainly if you have the gene, your likelihood is increased, but it doesn't mean you're doomed. And it doesn't mean that if you don't have the gene, you can just tra-la-la, not worry about it at all. And then that epigenetic dysmodulation. So we're looking at the nutrients and the toxins that turn those genes on and off, but then they start not functioning very well because the toxins start exceeding what the nutrients can do. And we can't necessarily get back to balance just by upping those nutrients again. They can damage some of our cell membranes, block insulin receptor sites. So that's a big problem with the diabetes epidemic that's taking over the Western world, and then cause imbalanced hormones. So we talk about endocrine disrupting chemicals or endocrine disrupting compounds. So things that alter our ability to regulate estrogen and progesterone and testosterone in our bodies, whether male or female, whether child or adult, and seeing more issues coming up there. So this damage, we want to offset that with increased nutritional levels. Support glutathione. Glutathione is a 3 amino acid compound that we make in our liver. It is our best antioxidant. You can take it supplementally, crazy expensive. But the best thing to do is make sure you're getting those 3 amino acids, and your body has the Lego pieces by which it can make its own glutathione. And of course, there's vitamins and minerals required in those enzyme pathways as well. But make it and then recycle it. Don't let that glutathione go. Support tissue and cell membrane repair. So good essential fatty acids, good antioxidants, good nutrients. Support adequate detoxification pathways. So making sure we're going to the bathroom every day, bringing in some, liver support, enough water to keep the kidneys going, get some exercise and sweat it out. We got to support our ability to get rid of these toxins. And then we want nutrients that can help compete for those receptor sites. So if we have lead there, we do want to make sure we have plenty of calcium so that the lead isn't able to really go in and take hold. Or if we are going to be dislodging it, we're dislodging it at a very, very slow, minor, 1 molecule at a time level so the body has time to eliminate it without it storing up in the bloodstream. And then iodine, which the thyroid is very, very greedy for and tends to suck up, but it's easily competed with or blocked out by bromine, which is sort of in that same column on the periodic table. And it's used in doughs, it's used in hot tubs. So it's readily available. Chlorine, which again is, a great way of sterilizing our water, but it's also, bumping out iodine. And people might not just be eating enough iodine if they're not eating iodized salt or seaweeds and things. So all of these factors coming in at play. So for many people, their nutritional needs have surpassed what their diet, impoverished and essential nutrients can provide. So we're eating what we can, but we've got this weight of those nutritional needs, the environment, the stress, the medications. Let's bring on the hope. The right supplementation, we can help to at least get things moving in a different direction, at least slow down the impetus with which, the train seems to be out of control. We can start putting on some of the brakes and then hopefully reversing some of these things. So vitamins and minerals, they are absolutely vital compounds for our physiology. We cannot live without them. They are called essential nutrients. And without sufficient quantities, health concerns arise. And this has been studied, obviously first in animals, unfortunately, and then in humans. What is too much vitamin B6? What's too little? What are the symptoms of having too much? What are the symptoms of having too little? Where is that sweet spot? If you think of that bell curve, we want to be at the top of the mountain where it's like just Goldilocks. It's perfect. It's not too hot, not too cold. You want it just right. Vitamins and minerals in nature, they're not in an isolated form. They're in a complex food matrix and with some of the compounds that we're still learning about. Nutrients, the first one was vitamin B1. It was discovered in 1912. So it was just this like breakthrough understanding of, oh my goodness, there are things in food that we can't see and they have an impact on our health. It was a Polish scientist who had heard that in places in Asia where they ate white rice, they developed beriberi disease, but the places where they ate brown rice, they didn't get that disease. So he took white rice and brown rice, or brown rice, and just started like peeling it down, test this bit, test that bit, peeling it down, this, test, till he found that one compound that if that was present or absent determined the risk for beriberi. And hence our nutrient adventure and understanding began. But it's just over 100 years old. We're still learning. That's the fun part. And we want just a bit of supplementation just to fill in those nutrient gaps, just to, chink it in so we don't have, big holes in the wall. And we want to look for a multi that provides meaningful potencies of whole food nutrients. And that's where we're coming to Mega Foods One Daily Multis. They are made with whole foods. This isn't just a pretty picture. When we look at the label, you can see that there's oranges, blueberries, beets, kale for sure. They're all kind of coming in, rice, little ones there. Food state nutrients, which we're going to talk about. And I have a video that makes it much easier on me. Organic tonic herbs, just little bits of herbs to help support us along the way. 1 per day tablets, then we'll talk later about the 2 a day tablets. Easy to digest, even on an empty stomach. Because they're food-based, the body recognizes them. We have the enzymes, we can take that on. And then they're calcium, magnesium free on purpose to allow for higher absorption of the other minerals. So calcium, magnesium, we tend to take in the 50s or the 100s. They are the macro minerals, the big number minerals, because we need them for our bones and for our muscles and our nerves. But then they can kind of bully the zinc and the selenium and the micro ones, the ones that are showing up in just milligram amounts or even microgram amounts, the chromium, the vanadium. And so we want to have them taken at separate times. This is what the Mega Food tablets look like. They're not just a white powder of, I don't know what this stuff is. It's everything. We've got the nutrients have been put in there. So niacinamide is B3, vitamin E is a fat soluble nutrient, helps to protect the fats in our body. And then there's carrot in there. There's zinc, there's vitamin B6, and there's brown rice and iron and broccoli and vitamin C and all the rest of it. They are speckly because you have that sort of compressed food nutrient combo. So getting into the individual ones, we've got the Kids One Daily. They were designed to be swallowed by kids. In Canada, it's ages 6 and up. But if they can't swallow it, you can just crush it between 2 spoons. But they went into kindergarten classrooms and were like, here's a tablet. Can you guys get these down? And they could. So they support optimal health and well-being. We've got convenient once a day serving. So it's just one, and they're getting 24 food state nutrients. So as a challenge, it's nice to sort of just go out and just look at other kid vitamins that are out there and see. Some of them only have 12 nutrients. Some of them, 16 or 18, but to get 24, that's rather robust. And in that whole food state, there's no sugar or stevia or any other sweetener. It is a tablet. They couldn't find a whole food way of making it taste good. So they just went with the tablet and then worked with the size and the shape to help children be able to swallow it. No flavorings, no food colorings. Because it's calcium, magnesium free, so 24 nutrients that don't include the cal mags, we're getting a lot of the micros in there. We do want to pair it with the calcium, magnesium, potassium. That is a big tablet. We're going to talk about that one later. But that one I would definitely want to crush or mortar and pestle or find an easier way to get that into your kid. The men's and women's one daily. We've got just basic one a day, get it down, get kind of your insurance in. Things to note, farm fresh nutrients are involved. These ones are vegetarian. You might see on some labels it says vegan, but the vegetarian refers to the fact that it does contain animal-based vitamin D. It doesn't come from deceased animals. It is from the lanolin of sheep that have been raised in New Zealand, and then that is used to convert into vitamin D. They have been tested to be free of herbicides and pesticides. So a lot of the farmers that they work with are organic farmers. Some are not. Some of them they farm organically, but they have yet to get their certification, or they can't afford it. They're too small, a little farm. But still, mega food, whether it's an organic farm that we know and love, Lundberg organic brown rice, or a little ma and pa one that arrives in their facility, they test it for herbicides and pesticides. They're also the first nutrient company to be glyphosate residue free. So as much as glyphosate is not being used on the plants that they use, the glyphosate could still be being used by a neighbor's farm and just coming over on the air sprayer through the water supply. And so they're checking for that residue of glyphosate and making sure that's not in the food as well. Glyphosate is Roundup, it's a herbicide, it binds a lot of minerals. And so it's a chelator. It's very difficult for us to then get enough zinc in our diet. They're dairy-free, soy-free, and gluten-free. So great, minimizing the top 3 allergens. Circle K, kosher certified and non-GMO project verified. So you've got food state nutrients, organic tonic herbs, one a day, just a little dabble do ya. Over 40, here they've brought in ginkgo, turmeric, and hawthorn because circulation, inflammation, and cardiovascular support become more important as we age. It's a little general overview of vitamin D. I think more is good, necessary for many people even, but it's just that little bit of insurance. Here's a little smidge, just kind of see you through. And again, those organic tonic herbs, just that regular signal coming from the plants to support endocrine and reproductive systems. So now we're going to talk about Dr. Chirona Lodagkwe, briefly touched on earlier. She is internationally recognized as an expert on dietary supplements, herbal medicine, women's health, integrative medicine. She started off as a midwife and a herbalist. So she was very grassroots, right in there with the birthing and the herbs, got into massage therapy, martial arts, but then eventually she went to medical school and became an MD. So she went to the University of Mexico, still lives in New Mexico. And one of my favorite quotes of her, she sees herself as the bridge between the herbalist in the garden growing peppermint and the scientist in the lab isolating menthol. There is a place for both. We want the science to understand what our ancestors were doing and why it worked and how cool it was. And oh my goodness, they just did this by observation and trial and error and finding out that if they mix, an acidic food like tomatoes with a mineral-rich food like dairy, so you think of sort of Italian culture, those acids are helping to absorb the minerals in that food. You're getting more calcium, magnesium out of it. So it's kind of fun when you can see that overview, and our ancestors knew stuff, but they just didn't know what they knew. And now science is filling in that gap. They chaired 2 committees. She has chaired 2 committees on dietary supplements for the US Pharmacopoeia. US Pharmacopoeia is the governing regulatory body in the States. Megafood is an American company, but we follow it as well. They regulate everything that comes into our bodies, everything we ingest that is not food-based. So the USP is looking after over-the-counter medications, prescription medications, food colors, flavors, additives, anything that isn't food-based that is coming into our system. She served as an advisor on integrative medicine to both the White House when Bill Clinton was in power and on the National Institutes of Health. And she has published 45 peer-reviewed articles written for medical textbooks and has published 5 books. And in this book, Fortify Your Life, that's where we took the the 1.5 milligrams of B6, you need to eat 2.5 bananas or 3.75 cups of lentils or 2.5 cups of avocado. That's all from this research from this book. And so we're going to do a little bit of a sidetrack. We talked about genetics briefly. And the big one that most people are aware of, the one that's kind of, came to the forefront first and is really kind of shining the light on what else we need to learn about genetics, was methylation. Methylation is a process that our body uses in a number of ways for making neurotransmitters and chemicals in our brain, for detoxifying compounds in our liver. It has a number of roles in our system. It's a very simple group, 1 carbon with 3 hydrogens, and that can be added or taken away from any other compound, and it affects that compound. It may activate it, it may deactivate it. And so it is helpful for helping to regulate those genes if we then have a body that is in a nutritionally robust place and able to self-regulate. We're not equally efficient at methylating. I already know that on I've got double defects. So I've got some bad genes from mom and some bad genes from dad. And I am very conscious now about my methylation. Other people do the test. Their methylation genes are just fine. There's a couple that we look at, the two key ones to begin with. And that determines what nutrients are you going to take? What foods do you want to eat or avoid so that you can maximize your own personal genetic makeup. So depending on what genes we have, particularly looking at sort of the MTHFR, the methylation folate genes, we can be a good methylator, a bad methylator, or anywhere in between. And we can change it. We have power when we know these things. So when she started working with Megafood and sort of came on as one of their advisors and working with them, she's like, yeah, I will absolutely, I'd love to, revisit this topic, loves nutrition. Let's see what the research says now. We're always learning. There's always new things being published. Where are we at? So she focused on the over 55s to start because they're sort of a vulnerable population. They're the ones most likely to be taking medications and have the longest period of time of not necessarily knowing their genetics and perhaps eating inappropriately for it. So up the vitamin D to 1,000. She also brought in choline. Choline is a cousin of the B vitamin family. It doesn't get that nice little B letter at the front, but it is very closely related with all of what the B vitamin does, or that B family does. And it has been shown to support memory, cognitive function. Women who get ample levels of choline in their diet during pregnancy, so if the fetus is exposed to ample levels of choline, that child, when tracked over time, shows less anxiety markers. And who doesn't want a calm, not anxious child? She also made sure that it was the methylated forms of folate, which is B9, and the methylated form of B12, so that it can cover those who do have an MTHFR gene mutation or have 2 gene mutations and have compromised methylations. They can detoxify more effectively. They can make neurotransmitters more effectively. The daily dose here is 2 tabs, but within those 2 tablets, you're getting 70% of the RDA of the nutrients that are listed, which is everything except for calcium, magnesium. Again, we want to make sure you're absorbing the zinc, absorb in the over 55s, there isn't iron, absorb the selenium, absorb the chromium, all of those micronutrients. We want to make sure they're getting in without, big calcium, magnesiums popping them out the way. The doctor formulated multi, as I said, 2 tablet serving size. Each one is providing 70% of the recommended daily value. Vitamins and minerals are delivered through whole food. The methylated forms of the food state, B12 and folate, active forms of B2 and B6. Remember, B6 is a really common nutrient deficiency all across North America. Choline, which is not found in a lot of multis, but we want to get that additional member of the B vitamin in and working with the rest of its cousins in cellular processes. And herb-free. So the under 40s and the over 40s, they get a little bit of tonic herbs to try and sort of keep them going and just, that nice little element coming in for hormone balance. But herbs will often have medication interactions. And so that was cut out so that, hey, I'm on this drug. Is it okay if I take this multi? So yes, you are. There are very, very few in there. There's one of them has green tea, but very, very limited. So really minimizing any interactions for medications. And again, calcium, magnesium free. The Baby and Me 2, this is the other one designed by Dr. Chirona Lodog. And again, looking at the research, why is infertility becoming such an issue? I have a lot of patients who have been diagnosed with unknown infertility. They've gone through all the tests. The sperm are fine. The eggs are healthy. The tubes are clear. Everything's happening on the schedule that it should. And yet that couple cannot get pregnant. Actually, one of my patients, she's 12 weeks, no, 10 weeks pregnant now through IVF. And they were just undiagnosed infertility. I got her on the Baby and Me Too. What is this, a methylation issue? I never worked for the husband, so I'm not sure if that was a factor there. But bringing in those methylated forms, then we are able to best support mom if she has one of those defects. And even not, methylated form is the one that's most commonly found in foods and in nature. We have food state iron. Women often become iron deficient if they aren't already going into pregnancy. They will often become anemic during pregnancy because baby is just going to suck all that out of you in that third trimester. So there's some food state iron, so it's easy to absorb without causing constipation, formulated by award-winning integrative physician Sharona Low-Dog. Gentle, easy to digest. And this is tough when you're pregnant and nauseous and you don't want to take a ton of pills. This one is just 2 pills, and then you take your calcium magnesium later. So 2 in the morning, CalMag at bedtime, you're covered. So here's what we pair it with. Any of those multis, we like to pair them with the calcium, magnesium, and potassium. So we're bringing in larger amounts. So 50 milligrams per tablet. 2 tablets is the recommended dose. I do have some people who are doing 3 or 4 if they know their bone health needs. And so you're getting in that food state form. You'll notice it doesn't say calcium carbonate or calcium citrate or what you'll see on a lot of other labels. It's just a calcium the way that is found in your food when you're getting it out of your broccoli. Helps to maintain bone and cardiovascular health with electrolyte balance, helps to maintain already healthy blood pressure levels, supports the health of bones and the muscular system, can be taken any time of day, even on empty stomach. I recommend evening, bedtime, so you're taking it away from the multis that you're going to do earlier in the day, ideally, so you've got that energy and oomph to get through the day. And again, 2 tabs. So 1 or 2 in the morning, 2 at bedtime, easy breezy. So the key takeaways before I get on to your questions, you can see a few have popped up. Even the healthiest diet has gaps. You know, a lot of us are doing our best. Some people are struggling more than others. They don't know what to eat. They can't afford the ideal foods. And especially now in the last, what, 2-3 months, just I bought some avocados for my kid today. I'm like, well, you got to eat every last little smidge of this sucker. We're doing our best. But some people it's hard. It's hard to get our nutrient levels. We have lifestyle up against us. We're busy, you know, things on the run. There's genetics, learning more and more about those, and our medical history. So we have very individualized nutrient needs. So this is not getting into those individualized nutrient needs. It's just saying, let's just cover our bases. Let's just, you know, everyone's put a little bit of insurance on your car, a little bit of insurance on your home. Let's just ensure our nutrient levels. Soil quality, particularly in modern day agriculture, has led to, or rephrase that, has led to depleted nutrient profiles in the foods that we eat today. Prescription medications can cause a variety of nutrient depletions, as essential as those medications may be. Environmental factors are an added stress to the body, and therefore we have additional nutrients to cope with that. And a whole food multi, tailored to your age, biological sex, just the best way to ensure your foundational nutritional needs are being met on top of the daily diet. And then from there, we can work on expanding the daily diet. So what I think we want to look for in a multi is that it's made with whole foods. We did not evolve on isolated forms of nutrients made in a laboratory. We ate real food that was rich in various nutrients and very low in toxins. So getting it from that whole food form, you're getting a lot of those, the flavors, the colors, like nothing's been taken out of that carrot when it goes through this process. You're still getting all of those other compounds in there. Essential vitamins and minerals for optimal health. No herbicides and pesticides. We don't need additional toxic load. Dairy-free, gluten-free, soy-free, and non-GMO, and easy to digest and absorb. So Mega Foods' mandate is to change the world starting with food. They craft premium supplements crafted with nutrients and real food from trusted farm partners committed to a more sustainable future. There's a lot more we could say about Mega Food. They are invested in regenerative agriculture and helping to shift the way that farmers work so that we have land to grow vegetables for, you know, our kids, our grandkids, our great grandkids. And so they have nutrition with ambition. And here we have someone from Stallbush Island Farms growing the beets that helps to carry some of the iron. Here we have Phil and his wife in Kauai Organic Farms. That is turmeric fresh out of the ground. And that shows up in the over 40s. And that is all that I have. I would love to hear what kind of questions came through and answer them to the best of my ability.
Awesome. Thank you, Miranda. So we got some questions came through. First one is, I've heard that multivitamins are mostly not absorbed and we urinate them out. Is that true?
That we urinate them out. Ooh, that's a nice one. So if they are not well absorbed, then we cannot urinate them out. So multivitamins not being absorbed. Yeah, it looks at the form of it. So as I mentioned with the calcium, magnesium, potassium, this is calcium in a food form, the way it is delivered to us in our vegetables, in our produce. If you are getting calcium carbonate, that is essentially limestone. It's a rock. It's difficult for a lot of us to digest. It's eggshells, right? We crack the egg, we eat what's inside, the rest goes on the compost heap. So depending on the forms that a supplement company is using, they may be incredibly difficult to digest. So first I'll look when I'm scanning any, other company, a patient brings something in, they bought from somewhere else. Do I like this? Do I not? I'll look at the mineral sources and I'll do a quick glance at the vitamin E. Is it synthetic? So you can see if it says DL alpha tocopherol, it's got half of the good one and then half of the isomer that was created in the laboratory, and this stuff is useless. So I want to see, what's the overall quality of this supplement? Does this company know what they're talking about, or are they just buying the cheap stuff and mixing it together and putting a label on it? For B vitamins, that's the easiest one to sort of talk about the absorption and excretion pattern, because a lot of people, when you consume a B complex or a multi and you're taking in more vitamins than what you can handle, you consume it, you're absorbing it into your bloodstream, it filters through, the cells are taking what they need, and if anything is left over, the kidneys will flush it out into the toilet. And so if you take a multi or you take a B complex and you see it turn like ridiculous bright yellow sort of highlighter color, you know that you've absorbed it because your kidneys cannot excrete it unless it's made it into the bloodstream. With mega food, the levels are a little bit lower, so I think you'd probably be taking quite a few multis. If you're tired, you certainly can. But yeah, so a lot of multis are poorly absorbed. Mega food, it's good quality. They've done the work. They take the time to help it get into your system.
Okay. I always thought that taking vitamins separately was better than taking a multi. What are your thoughts on that, Dr. Miranda?
You'll get higher doses if you take them separately. So again, right now we're just talking about nutritional insurance, getting a little bit of everything. But if you have done the blood work and you know that you need additional vitamin D, you're not going to get what you need from a multi. So you're going to take your multi and then you're going to take an additional vitamin D supplement. If you've on a birth control pill, take your multi, take an additional B complex, some added vitamin C, maybe, a little bit more zinc. So taking them separately just ups the levels. You physically cannot fit 20 pills worth of nutrients into one tablet. It's a volume thing. You're not going to get a liter of water in a shot glass. So it's just that convenience of 1 a day, 2 a day, carry on and take more as needed for your physiology.
So certainly not all multivitamins are created equal. What should I be looking for and what should I stay away from when looking for a multi?
I'm looking for the type of nutrients that are in there. So the form that they're in. And again, with mega foods, if I can get up to where there's a label. So here again, you'll see the calcium, it's not calcium carbonate, calcium citrate, calcium bisglycinate, is just whole food calcium. It's gone through that process of enzymes. Saccharomyces cerevisiae is a nutritional yeast. It's been fed to the yeast. The yeast is consuming it and putting it into an organic form in a way that's recognizable to our system. And so that makes it easier for us to digest and absorb rather than it coming in an eggshell form or a rock form that we can't absorb. For the vitamins, this is what I love about mega food. We've got vitamin A, it's beta carotene being delivered in carrot. The vitamin D is also coming from nutritional yeast. The vitamin E is coming from organic brown rice from Lundberg family farms. So I think we're looking for the quality of the nutrient that's going in. Otherwise, it could just be an expensive bowel movement if you're not going to break it down and absorb it. And there was a second part to that question. What are you looking for? I think you're looking for whole food, low toxin level. So avoiding the herbicides, pesticides, the glyphosate, the genetically modified organisms. And there was a second part. What should I be looking for? And
what should I stay away from?
What should you stay away from? Calcium carbonate, synthetic, so DL alpha tocopherol. You also then want to look at the binders, at the non-medicinal ingredients. So here they've taken all these nutrients, they've fortified them, they dehydrate them really gently. So we preserve the nutrients, the other nutrients within those foods, within the carrot, within the blueberry. And then those get pressed together just with like old-fashioned squeeze it together tableting, and then coated in a little bit of cellulose. This is just plant starch, the stuff, you know, you're getting out of lettuce leaves and everything else. A little bit of silica, a bit of fat, brown rice. So just going to press it together. When you look at other tablets, look to see what the non-medicinal ingredients are. If there's a lot of like microcrystalline cellulose, if there's any sort of like gums or glues, things that are going to really help stick it together in a tablet. This one is just pressure of foods, just really squeezing it together. Yeah, I've been looking at what's in there that maybe it really doesn't need to be.
All right, thank you for that. Should I be incorporating proteolytic enzymes to help with the breakdown absorption of food and supplements?
Often. I don't know you, I don't know your digestion. Megafood does that for you in the over 40s one daily. They brought in a few digestive enzymes because our digestive quality does decrease over time with every decade. If you're having digestive issues, enzymes are a good place to start to help you absorb your nutrients. For a lot of people, you know, we look at the stages of digestion. The very first stage of digestion is our brain. It's when we are smelling the food cooking, we're hearing it sizzling, we're slicing it, we're engaged in that process, or we've ordered off the menu and we're anticipating what's coming. And that brain is then sending the signals down. So let's get that stomach acid floating out. Let's get the liver primed to start pushing out bile. Is the pancreas on board? Is everything ready to receive that food? Are we in a state of relaxation? Are we sitting at a table with people whose company we enjoy, cutlery, maybe a candle, you know, are we chewing really well and bringing that nutrition in? Or are we wolfing things down on the highway, 110 kilometers an hour and barely paying attention? You know, take all the enzymes you want. We need to look at how we're in a state of relaxation and bringing our entire body into that digestive process. So a lot of it is how to eat as much as what to eat. Whole other topics. Could spend an hour on that one.
Maybe the next webinar. With our poor soil, what are your thoughts about supplementing with fulvic acid?
I don't have any because I don't know enough about it.
Okay.
With the poor soil, I would recommend a movie on Netflix that has Woody Harrelson on the front. It's called Kiss the Ground. Again, takes you into a really dark dive of, oh, wow, we're killing our planet. And then like, this is what we can do. So it ends on a nice hopeful note. We're not doomed, but we do need to change the way we're doing things.
I'm not sure if we're going to need a little bit more information on this one, but what can one take so your body can absorb the nutrients?
Again, that would be sort of where the enzymes come in, and also where the slow down, eat mindfully, get into a state of relaxation, do a few deep breaths, close the computer. You know, digestive bitters can be helpful, but like, how well are you chewing your food? My grandmother, back when she was alive, was like, oh, we had to chew 100 times before we were allowed to swallow. And it's just like, it turns into paste. You have delicious food, that's easy. A lot of this denatured stuff, you're like, nah, I just want to, you know, get it down. But are we chewing our food well? Or are we just like 3 gulps and swallowing it? There's a conversation I have with my 4-year-old a lot. Chew and swallow. I can see she's opening up her mouth to put more food in. Like, I can see it there. Stop, chew, swallow, wait till your mouth is empty. Now have your next bite. So a lot of it is, yeah, the lifestyle factors.
Will vitamins be absorbed if you have leaky gut?
It depends on where the leaky gut is and what's causing it. In some cases, they might be absorbed too well. So leaky gut, in a healthy digestive tract, we have all of that cells lining the small intestine. It's where we are the most thin membrane-wise because we need to absorb nutrients the other side. So we want to have nice, intact, cell on cell, everything snugged up against its neighbors, no breaks. And then the amino acid comes through that cell and excreted out the back into the bloodstream. The fat molecule comes through, just a glyceride at a time, or a fatty acid at a time. When we have leaky gut, we have inflammation and those cells have moved apart, and now bigger particles of food can get through. So it increases the risk of food sensitivities or food allergies because now we've got bigger, longer chains of proteins when we really should have 1, maybe 2 amino acids at a time coming through. So if there are sufficient enzymes and you're liberating the B vitamins from the food, that might be even easier to kind of float through the system. But unlikely. I think we need more nutrients there to help repair that gut. We need more vitamin C, more zinc, everything that makes collagen to help clean that up, remove the food sensitivities, get rid of any yeast or bacterial overgrowth. So leaky gut certainly can impair nutrient absorption, particularly iron and B12, but others, yeah, they might just float through if they've denatured from their food.
So next question would be, does metformin affect nutrition? And would a multivitamin help?
Off the top of my head, I don't know the metformin food nutrient interactions. I don't know. I don't know. I'd have to get back to you, or you could look at Fortify Your Life, or Google search at this point. Probably has a lot of information. I don't have that one.
For that person that had that question, if you want, I'm going to type in my email address, and then you can email me that question, and we can see if we can get you an answer on that.
Good. I will research it tomorrow.
How does one choose a multi-brand? I'm kind of
Yeah.
a bit repetitive, but I mean, Whole Foods that we talked about.
Whole Foods, low toxins.
Yep. Because I know it's super overwhelming when you walk down that aisle. Some of them are cheaper price, some of them are more expensive. I guess it's really about the quality. I don't know if there's any other points that you wanted to make on that we haven't already addressed.
Yeah, no, they don't cut corners. I mean, the nitty gritty, how they do it and the time it takes. So just the vitamin C, they're bringing in organic oranges from Uncle Matt's orange farm down in Florida. Apparently it's a very well-known brand in the States. I don't know it at all. But Uncle Matt's, they send their organic oranges up. And then from the time that they are first testing it, making sure that these fresh oranges don't have gluten, soy, dairy, they don't have herbicides, pesticides, they're glyphosate residue free. They're doing all that testing vitamin C, processing it, integrating nutrients into that food. That's 11 days before we have that product that's available to go into this multi or as their standalone vitamin C product. So it's a lot of time of quality control, of integrating it into a food matrix that the body recognizes in order to enhance the absorption. So it's a lot of value added steps behind the scenes that we don't know about, but we can benefit from.
When is the best time to take a multi?
Generally, I like doing it in the morning, just kind of, again, get it over with, get it done. Some people find B vitamins a little bit stimulating. Some people don't. They find them relaxing and it helps them fall asleep at night. But generally, I like, do it in the morning. Then if you forget, you've got lunchtime as a window if you forget. And also because calcium, magnesium taken separately, a lot of us are already in the habit of doing calcium, magnesium at bedtime because of the relaxing effects on the muscles. So it just makes sense if we're going to distance the two. But ultimately, I tell a lot of my patients, like, do it imperfectly rather than not at all. It's doing you no good sitting in your cupboard. So if taking it at 11 p.m. as you're crawling into bed is the when you remember to do it, you can. Because the nice part about Megafood is you can do it on empty stomach. Most multis, when they have like the really hard to digest mineral salts and the synthetic vitamins, you want to take them with food so they can kind of like piggyback in on that digestive process, because Megafood is essentially like a teeny tiny little fortified salad in a tablet. You can do it on empty stomach and it's really, really well digested. So you could do it at bedtime if that works for you.
So there is no K2 in any of our multis. Is there a reason why it hasn't been added?
I think it's a carrier issue. The no, there's a blend. It's K1, K2, and they're all being delivered in cabbage. So I don't have the breakdown of how much of those 30 micrograms is K1, how much is K2. I could look into that. But no, there is some K2, or at least in the Baby and Me.
Is it possible that the calcium supplement may leave a residue in the bloodstream, or may it be fully absorbed? I think.
Are we talking about like atherosclerosis?
Good question.
Okay, so K1 in the kids, not K2. The only ones I really have broken down is the Baby and Me too. If we're looking at calcification, we have bigger conversations to have. So we want to look at vitamin D level status, vitamin K status, exercise, vitamin C resiliency, like what are the cholesterol levels, how well. I've got so many more questions and answers when I get those kind of queries.
Do you know if any of our multis have strawberries?
No, none have strawberries.
Okay.
Food sensitivity wise, citrus comes up. Yeast comes up. The question that I'm often asked, but no one has asked it, so I'm gonna ask it for you guys, is whether you can take these minerals if you have candida. One, let's work on getting rid of that candida. And two, yes, you can. Saccharomyces cerevisiae and candida are cousins and they compete for absorption. But either way, this Saccharomyces cerevisiae has been denatured. Once it has gobbled up its mineral, it's consumed all the zinc, then it's attacked by proteolytic enzymes, so it breaks it apart so we can absorb it more effectively and it's easier on our digestion. That said, some people with Crohn's disease have a reactivity to Saccharomyces cerevisiae, and so that's not a good fit for them. But citrus is the main food sensitivity that comes up when people are like, oh, I can't do mega food because I can't eat oranges.
So one person said they are on 2 different blood pressure medications and have frequent urination. Wondering if the medication may be causing this, and then also would a multivitamin help in this?
That's right. I mean, I don't know the names of the meds. I don't know your medical history. I think, talk to a healthcare practitioner who is educated in nutrition and can help sort of bridge that gap for you. That's too big a guess for my comfort zone.
Fair. What is pairing, I guess, a multivitamin for iron to be absorbed optimally? I guess they're asking, are you trying to pair? I think you need to ask that question about pairing a vitamin for iron to be absorbed.
So for iron, Mega Food has one called Blood Builder, which has 26 milligrams of iron. So it's about 1.5 times the RDA. It also contains vitamin C, B12, folate. So everything that's required to make a red blood cell. So if you need additional iron, Blood Builder is a great one. I think it's actually the best seller in Mega Food.
I use it myself. It's fantastic. Are all these multivitamins safe with blood thinners?
The one daily for under 40s and over 40s, there are some herbs in there. So I wouldn't take those. For the over 55s, they're designed to be safe with medications. But again, I don't know you, how your history, how high is your blood pressure, what's the name of the medication you're on, what's your dose. So I would speak to someone who is, your pharmacist. They've got access to, great online resources where, hey, I'm on this drug, can I take this multi? And they'll check for you.
Okay, and we have one more, and I think the person is also on blood thinners and a thyroid medication. Would there be any interactions with a multivitamin?
With any multi and thyroid meds, being someone who's on thyroid meds herself, you don't want to take anything with minerals within 2 hours of your thyroid medications because they'll bind, and then you've got less dose available to your system. So you would do this multi either 2 hours after taking your meds or at lunch. Blood thinners, again, it's a very broad term, blood thinner. Like I'm not going to take that one on. Blood thinners and vitamin K can often be an issue. So again, are you on warfarin? Are you on heparin? Are you on Coumadin? So talk to clopidogrel. Like go talk to your pharmacist, your prescribing physician, ask. So yeah.
Awesome.
Yeah.
That's it for today. Thank you.
Cool.
Thank you, Dr. Wiley, for your time today and hosting. Anyone is interested in trying any of our multivitamins, you can go online to healthyplanet.com, as well as in stores for 20% off right now. If you're also wanting to get the recording of this webinar, you can go on to Healthy Planet's YouTube channel. You'll find this one hopefully in the next couple of days, as well as any of the previous webinars there for your viewing. Thank you again for everyone for joining us this evening. Again, Dr. Wiley, thank you so much.
Thank you, everyone.
It was a pleasure. Thank you, everyone. Hope you all have a great night.
You too. Take care. Bye, everyone.
Bye.